Hear us, the full translation into natural, engaging English these days. If you get lost in the woods, it's simple. You pull out your phone, open Google Apps, call what's basically a forest Uber, and a few hours later you're sitting in a bar with an ice-cold beer, telling the story to your cousins in the family WhatsApp group. Now try to picture a different scene. It's you with no knife, no fire starter, no backpack, nothing, dropped in the middle of the thick Cerrado jungle of Minas Gerais or Espirito Santo in 1760. And here's the detail that'll freeze your spine. This is Botocudo territory. The indigenous people, famous for the huge wooden discs in their lower lips, and for the reputation that they ate white men for breakfast. You think you'd last half an hour? Let me tell you calmly, you wouldn't last 30 seconds. Welcome to the wild colonial Brazil. Everyone has seen those old engravings, warriors with enormous lip plates, bodies painted red and black, eyes hard as stone, always armed with giant bows. But what history classes never told you is the sheer terror the name Botocudo spread from Rio de Janeiro all the way down to Porto Alegre. These peoples controlled a territory the size of France itself, from the mouth of the Rio Doce River up to northern Rio Grande do Sul. Back then, hearing a single high-pitched whistle in the forest was the same as hearing your own death sentence. Picture this: you're a soldier in an expedition in 1759, looking for Brazilwood. The tame, indigenous guide who was walking ahead of the column simply vanishes. Nothing, not even a rustle of leaves. Even the birds stop singing. The air goes dead still. Then comes the whistle. 1 second later, arrows start raining down like a storm of razors. And we're not talking toy arrows. These are sharpened bamboo shafts, dipped in timbo vine poison, the same stuff that makes fish float to the surface in seconds. Heart stopped cold. A Portuguese lieutenant takes one in the neck, tries to order the troop into a square, and dies before he finishes the sentence. 30 seconds. And believe me, dying fast wasn't even the worst part. The real terror was being taken alive. The Botocudos were absolute masters of the forest, barefoot, painted with urucum and jenipapo, moving between the trees as if they were part of them. One Captain Major wrote to the governor in 1763, "They appear out of nowhere, kill half the men, and disappear before we can even load a musket." In another expedition, 40 soldiers marched in confidently looking for valuable timber. Only 4 came back. Every survivor told the same story all night long. They heard thin, high-pitched giggles, thought they were monkeys. At dawn, half the troop was pinned to the trees with arrows, left as a warning. And if you think you could negotiate, forget it. The Botocudos didn't want mirrors, knives, cloth, or conversation with Europeans. A Franciscan priest, full of hope, decided to try converting a village in 1808. He walked in with his cross held high, rosary in hand, carrying little gifts. Result? He became target practice for the village teenagers. They found his body days later so full of arrows he looked like a porcupine. The rosary was still clutched in his fingers. Women and children weren't spared either. Many were taken to the villages and became wives, slaves, or apprentices in Botocudo ways. A 9-year-old girl kidnapped in 1777 survived 7 years among them. When colonial troops finally rescued her, she refused to leave. She already hunted with a bow, knew how to prepare poison, and wore the lip disc. She said she preferred the freedom of the forest to washing the mistress' clothes in the tank. And here's something almost nobody mentions: the Botocudos weren't mindless monsters. They were defending what was theirs. The colonizers arrived cutting down forest, enslaving allied indigenous groups, burning crops. To the Botocudos, every banderante, mule driver, or soldier was simply an invader. When the Rio government declared total war in 1808 and started paying bounties for severed ears, the conflict turned into slaughter on both sides. Thousands were massacred, entire villages burned. The survivors fled deeper into the jungle, taking with them a fear that would echo for centuries. So the next time you're out on a trail thinking everything's peaceful, remember this: just over 200 years ago, a single whistle and your 30 seconds were up. If this story gave you chills, made you think, or just made you grateful to live in the age of Wi-Fi, smash that like button, subscribe, and hit the bell. Every week we bring you Brazilian history that nobody else has the guts to tell. And now I want to know, which tribe or episode from colonial Brazil do you want next? Comment below. The most voted one becomes the next episode. See you in the next one, and watch where you step.